Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Best Care Anywhere podcast. I am your host, an upstanding citizen, Anthony, and with me is a man who absolutely did not send me the draft of the letter he is going to send to the 131 members of Congress who are over the age of 65, asking them to politely but firmly to resign, Ethan Wilson.
Are you, okay, I'm fine with lying to our audience, but are we going to be that blatant about it? I mean, I am absolutely sending that letter, but you called yourself an upstanding citizen?
Yes.
Uh, I'm good with lying to them. Are you good? What's your conscience like these days?
What have I done? What are you claiming that I've done?
Nothing I can prove in a court of law.
Exactly. Hello, everyone. How are you? We're back. We're here. Ethan doesn't have an operating motor vehicle. Life is in balance and completely normal.
Hold on. I have a working motorcycle. And
I thought the motorcycle wasn't working.
One of the motorcycles, I have two, because I make poor financial decisions.
This is new information to me. But all right. How's Kansas, Ethan? How are things?
Kansas
What's new and
is
exciting?
good. I tell you what, the seasons change real quick around here, man. You know, one day you're cursing the sun, and the next day it's 50 degrees and raining. And some days you just waterboard yourself on your motorcycle accidentally because you wear a bandana over your nose and mouth to keep the bugs out of there, and you hit a little squall, just a little rainstorm, and have to rip that sucker off at 60 miles an hour going down State Route 24 and get a lot of weird looks from the locals, but life goes on. How are you? What's new and exciting?
Accidentally waterboarding yourself. Jesus Christ.
It was not fun.
Not a whole lot going on, to be perfectly honest. We had a barbecue with a bunch of the cigar podcast people because Greg was throwing and his family were hosting a little memorial service / potluck for his dad, which is always a fun. It's always a fun time because all those people who were invited to that event know how to cook and how to cook very well. So I was in a food coma most of yesterday, but other than that,
it's also a very good way to honor his father. Very, in my opinion. So I'm jealous. I will try to hide that for the sake of this episode, but I promise nothing.
Alrighty, fair enough.
I hate you.
I
hate you. Give me food. Okay.
The audience will be happy to know that because we are keeping to our regular recording schedule, there isn't like 2.5 weeks of tragic backstory that we have to go over between the two of us. I was editing the last episode and I'm like, damn, we talked about Jimmy Buffett for a while.
And he deserves it. Oh, by the way,
he deserves every moment of it.
I have yet to go listen to the playback because, believe it or not, I actually stand by most of what I say enough for me to be comfortable listening to our recordings after the fact. Did you remember to edit out the part where you doxed me, or is that still in there?
No. I specifically remember I did not put in a censor bleep, but I did mute when I said your hometown.
Honestly, the censor bleep might have been funnier, but that's for the audience to decide.
No, I just say I would love to do an episode where we say live from Kansas. The bleep would have been funnier, but I was kind of rushing to get that episode out, so it'll be fun.
Yeah, I guess I didn't leave you with much choice. But in any case,
it's all good.
By the grace of God, I guess we have people that don't mind listening to us ramble, so.
Exactly. So, there are a couple things we do need to address before we get to the episode itself. Some MASH news. We are recording this on the 51st anniversary of the show, which, oddly enough, and I think rightfully so, not as much fanfare for the 51st anniversary as the 50th. Like, I think that's pretty fair, though. Like,
I mean, I'll sing Auld Lang Syne if you want, but
please never do that. So yeah, 51st anniversary of match. Not a whole lot to say. Nothing crazy going on like last year, but people were absolutely making note of it.
It's a very noteworthy occurrence.
something else that came across my feed as I was internet browsing is our favorite army major, not Frank, Margaret, Loretta Swit, will be a celebrity of note at the 41st annual John Basilone Memorial Parade. Wait, no, not
That
the 41st. I'm sorry. That's a picture from the 41st that's in this article. She'll be a guest of the John Basilone Memorial Parade this year in what was the town? Crap. Raritan, New Jersey, I believe.
well,
So yeah.
that's just downright honorable. Like, good
Do
for
you
her.
know we had this conversation already. Do you know what the John Basilone Memorial Parade is?
I would like you, for the sake of my very small, very tired brain, to discuss it in a bit
So,
further with me.
I believe, don't quote me, Gunnery Sergeant John Basilone, I'm pretty sure he's a gunnery sergeant. The article doesn't say, was a United States Marine Corps gunnery sergeant at the outbreak of World War II. He served on Guadalcanal, where he won the Medal of Honor. For those of you that have seen the show The Pacific, the kind of sister series to Band of Brothers, this is the guy who, during the night raid by the Japanese, picked up that big water-cooled 30 caliber machine gun and held it in his forearm and fired it and ran back and forth for ammo and kept firing it, and it burned the crap out of his forearm. He won a Medal of Honor for that. And because he won a medal of was one of the first major combat actions where he won a Medal of Honor, he got rotated back to the States and did a war bond tour, where you go around and convince the people to buy war bonds to help fund the war effort. To celebrate him returning home and going on tour, his hometown on September 19th, 1943, held a big homecoming parade for him, and then he went on tour around the U.S. Getting war bonds, and then he went to back to the Marine Corps as a drill instructor and was redeployed at his request, I believe, to the Pacific to serve a tour of combat, as opposed to just flying around the U.S. Like a show pony. And he ended up being killed during the invasion of Iwo Jima. So his hometown does a memorial parade every year, and it's an event that is very heavily attended by the United States Marine Corps. They support it. Very, very supportive of that town's little parade that they do.
Well,
And I say little; it's a big event. But
I pulled up his Wikipedia article just to get a little bit more info on him. And when he was killed in action at Iwo Jima, it was after he, and I quote, single-handedly destroyed an enemy blockhouse and led a Marine tank under fire safely through a minefield. What
Yep.
a fucking man. My God.
And he was so well known that the entire Marine division knew that he had died within like hours. Like he was a big enough celebrity both in the Marine Corps and out of it that it was major news when he was killed.
Well, and I remember the problems with turning these soldiers into show ponies, as you put it, as I remember the Red Baron became something of a novelty to Germany during World War I, to the point that they almost did not let him fly anymore because of what.
And he hated it because he was smart. He and a bunch of because back then you have to remember, to be a pilot in World War I, you were kind of educated. It was the equivalent of like knights in medieval society. Like any peasant can be a rifleman, but it was well-to-do German families whose sons became pilots in the Air Corps. But they were all smart enough to know, like, yeah, we might be doing really good in the air, but we are losing this war. And Richthofen knew that. And he did not like going back to the German public being like, yes, everything's fine. Give us your money and your children to go to war.
Well, and the reason I bring that up is because you have to imagine that history has a way of repeating itself. He had to probably pull some strings and, put up one hell of a fight to be shipped back to the front lines.
Mm-hmm.
Which you got to respect the hell out of in and of itself. But I
There's a really, really good Red Baron movie. I have to find it and watch it again. I can't remember the name of it.
Is that going to be
I'm pretty
our
sure it's
next
called
one
Rick.
after?
Oh God! You dare! Don't you dare give away the secret, child.
I would never.
We'll talk about that later. So yeah, Loretta Swit is going to be at the John Basilone Memorial Parade, and I think that is just awesome.
God bless her, and God bless him. May he rest in peace.
Another thing that came across my internet viewing that I thought was weirdly cool. And Ethan, you've seen this because I posted it in our little conversation server.
Mm-hmm.
Are you first of all, separate of this thing that I showed you, are you familiar with the company Rheinmetall?
No, I am not.
So Rheinmetall is a German company. They are known. They're primarily a military industry. They've built all sorts of different military equipment. They've been around for a long time. I'm trying to think here. I want to say Rheinmetall is older than like pre-World War II, World War One. Like they are an old firearms and armaments company.
Wow.
Which yes, that does mean they built stuff for the Nazi government. A lot of German companies
Volkswagen.
did.
Like
yes, so did Volkswagen.
Let's
literally the people's car. That's what Volkswagen means.
Is it really? Wow.
Volks is people. The Volkssturm. The Volkssturm was the People's Army, the citizen army that fought toward the end of World War II. So yeah, Volk is people, folk. That's where we get the English word folk from. Like, you folk.
Learn something new every day. And
Rheinmetall is military company, build a lot of Germany's like German specific armaments, but the thing that they've come up with recently is a modular modern military hospital on wheels. Basically, it's a modern MASH unit. And again, and this is something we'll talk about in MASH several times. War sucks. Separate of that, this is fucking cool. Like they have a little video of it, and I'll post a link to it in the episode notes, either below the video or below the episode on Spotify or wherever you're listening. It is wild to me that this is a direct result of MASH units in the 50s. Like getting to where Rheinmetall has built this 12 truck, easily, easy setup, easy takedown military surgical unit is a direct result of the UN and NATO and the US doing MASH units in Korea. And it's really cool to see how similar but how different it looks in the video.
Yeah, it was pretty amazing to watch the first time around, actually. Like I was kind of harping on earlier, I don't like the March of Progress for a lot of things. However, to become that modular and that mobile is absolutely incredible to me.
Mm-hmm. Like the one spot in the video is about 30 seconds in where they show the recovery ward, and I'm like, that just looks like post-op.
Yeah.
Like it's cool. And it gives a list with like all the stuff. It has all the necessary, it's built to NATO standards. It's designed for 32, it's got a 32 bed capacity for recovery, has ORs, all necessary x-ray machines, a CT scanner, its own laboratory, and its own water supply and heating system. Like it's so crazy to think that's where we are now with being able, just logistics and stuff.
Yeah.
Anyway, I'll post a link to it. It's really cool. Go check it out.
Absolutely. Take the 3 minutes to just feast your eyes, I suppose.
Exactly. And then the last thing, we do have a couple comments from the last episode.
Oh boy. Am I being canceled again?
It's a little bit.
Oh shit.
Over on YouTube, Andrea Gall says, maybe it's just because I'm British, but I've never considered the food Trapper brought for Kim all that odd. That would be,
Yeah,
um,
it's because you're British. Oh,
what was that
oh,
about?
not that.
You wanted to make a definitive statement on British food to the internet,
Uh,
Ethan?
nope, nope. Knowing that we actually have a British listener, I suppose I should shut my fat mouth.
Mhm. Vinegar isn't a fucking condiment. Anyway, moving on.
Oh, you're gonna ruffle some Canadian feathers with that statement.
Spent 300 years conquering the world for spices, didn't learn how to use a single fucking one.
Maybe it's because I'm British. Yeah, the jokes write themselves.
We love you,
sometimes.
Andrea.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for listening to our bullshit. All of you.
We're
really,
just
but
we're just taking the piss.
yeah,
Anyway.
it's a requirement for every American to have at least passing hatred towards.
It's like siblings. It's like I can make fun of you, no one else can make fun of you.
Yeah.
I love you, but I'm gonna hate on you. That's how
Yeah.
we do.
Exactly.
Chad Smith says, and this is also directed at you, Ethan.
Oh,
From
God.
my own grandmother's time in a nursing home, not only is the security non-existent, but the residents want to leave. For the love of God, take them to an Arby's.
Yeah, that's what I meant. Not, necessarily kidnap them, never to return. Just, nobody is going to check if you are really their grandson. You can just take them out for a nice day. Although I am probably not legally, morally required to tell you that one of my roommates spent a lot of time working for a nursing home when he was pre-med, and apparently you hear a lot of old people confessing to murders and other acts
Oh.
like that. So maybe the stories you get will be fun, whimsical, or maybe you're gonna find out where a body is buried.
All right. Anyway,
Were we talking about MASH at some point?
we were talking about MASH at some point. So this week's episode is season 2, episode 7, L.I.P, which is a military acronym for Local Indigenous Personnel, which, man.
Are you sure it's not? It doesn't stand for llamas integrate into parliament.
No, I'm 100% certain. No, local indigenous personnel, a catch-all term for the native population that resides in the zone of conflict or the area your military base is located in. So yeah.
Lozenges introduction, please.
No. So, this episode was released October 27th, 1973. We're quickly approaching the crossover point for when our episodes match up with that season's episodes. It was. This episode is directed by William Wiard. This is his last MASH episode, actually. We got him for how many episodes did we have him for? Scrolling. He did 5 MASH episodes. So he did Henry, Please Come Home, Tuttle, Sometimes You Hear the Bullet, The Long John Flap, Kim, and this is his last one, Local Indigenous Personnel. That is an interesting assortment of MASH episodes.
I can't hear the name Henry, Please Come Home without hearing that song by the Allman Brothers, Please Call Home. And, maybe that'll be something I do for our Patreons or anyone else unfortunate enough to hear me sing. Just do a couple of MASH parodies, old songs. Comment below and tell me not to, otherwise I will do it.
If that's something you want, go over to the Patreon and support us. If that's something you don't want, please let us know. Don't just leave. Please, you have an opportunity to say no.
And I have an opportunity to hold you all verbally hostage.
Oh, God. It was written by Carl Kleinschmitt, who we have discussed before. Carl Kleinschmitt wrote only 2 episodes of MASH. He wrote this one, and Sometimes You Hear the Bullet. So William and Carl working together again. And not gonna lie, 2 very different episodes.
Yeah.
The other...
Sometimes You Hear the L.I.Ps is going to be the name of my first MASH fanfic, actually.
No, what?
What?
All right. This was also written in part by Larry Gelbart and Laurence Marks. Laurence Marks, obviously, we're not even close to done with Laurence Marks. He wrote 28 episodes of MASH, and I don't think we're even halfway through them yet.
Wow.
So yeah, local indigenous personnel. So episode starts in the mess tent watching a movie. Everyone is, and secret time, Ethan and I watched back this episode earlier today and took notes while Ethan was in the phone call with me.
Yeah.
And I watched it along with him, and we noticed many things. First of all, the first thing I noticed is Trapper starts making out with the nurse he's with, and Father Mulcahy, and you got to kind of look for it because the credits are rolling on screen while this is happening. Father Mulcahy shoots him a side eye so vicious. I I need to take a screenshot of this. He's being so polite, but also so judgmental.
Yes, as my former priest said, hate the sin, not the sinner. And I can only
Oh,
hope that's what he's doing.
oh, that's an interesting choice of words. Anyway,
It's a quote.
yeah.
I'm not saying that's what I personally. Hi. Anything I say may or may not express my actual internalized beliefs. I'm a moron. Do not take any cues from me. I beg of you.
Tune in for season 2, episode 21, George, where we'll dive deeper into that phrase. Anyway, I just made Ethan uncomfortable. No, I love, so William Christopher shoots a side eye at Wayne Rogers, and then he looks to his other side, hoping that other side will be less scandalous. No, it's not. It's one of the regular extras whose name I can't remember, and a nurse sharing a what are they in? That's not a sleeping bag.
I would call it a
It's-
bivy bag.
Yeah, it's like a bivy bag. It's like a waterproof. Man, were you ever a fan of? Did you ever use a bivy bag? Were you ever a fan of the bivy bags?
I've used them a couple of times. Basically because I'm a little bit too tall for my own good, as you know. So finding any sleeping bag that can fully contain me is a job. So I'll use
And then you gotta
whatever.
find a yeah.
Yeah.
So for those of you that don't know, a bivy bag, some of the hardcore hikers and scouters out there might know what this is. So a bivy bag is essentially a tent with no poles. It's a rain jacket for your sleeping bag. That's basically what it is.
Yeah.
It's a waterproof outer liner that you slip over your sleeping bag, but it's as durable and as waterproof as like a tent would be. So you don't have to carry a tent with you. You can sleep right on the ground just with this bivy bag as your outer layer. So if you're doing long, like I'm sure there's a lot of people, if you do like the Appalachia Trail or the PCT, Pacific Coast Trail, or Pacific Crest Trail.
Yeah.
They're the same damn acronym, which is irritating.
Yeah.
But if you're one of these hardcore through hikers, a bivy bag and a good moderate to low temperature sleeping bag, you can go without a tent and be way lighter on gear. Because even the super lightweight like tents are still a pound or two. And if you're shaving any weight possible, a bivy bag is a good.
And more than that, I think we've talked about this a little bit because you and I have both hiked sections of the Pacific Crest Trail in our time, and you like myself probably noticed the uptick in what is affectionately called glampers, and we need to think of a very unaffectionate term for it because I do not care for I think
there's you and I have had this conversation where I am not begrudging anyone to go to the outdoors. I don't know how we got here. We got here from two people kissing in a bag.
You gotta stop letting me talk. That's how we got here.
No, but we've talked about this where I don't begrudge people to go outdoors and enjoy nature and enjoy stuff. That's not my problem. The problem is the threshold of difficulty to go out and enjoy some of these places has been dropped so far that people who probably shouldn't be out there are out there. You know what I mean? Like,
yes.
Like when I started scouting, And again, I get it. I'm not even 30 yet, so this is a crazy thing for a young person to say. But even the jump in technology from the last like 10 to 15 years has made it so much easier to pull up trail maps on your phone, GPS on your phone, Google, Google Earth, Google Maps, Google reviews, little secret little camping spots that people mostly didn't know about 10 years ago.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous. And add to that being stuck inside for a year and a half during COVID. It's a thing. I'll have to send, I keep meaning to send this video to you and I forget. Someone did like a documentary about how some of the major national parks, like the Big Five in Utah, Yellowstone, Yosemite, Great Smoky Mountains, they're all having trouble because they've gotten like 4 times the visitors in the
Yeah.
last 2 years, and they can't handle it. But that's everywhere. Everywhere's got crap tons of people going out because one, everyone wants to after being stuck inside for so long, but now it's just so it's too easy to walk into an REI, look at a a YouTube video by some random person on the internet says buy these 5 things and you can go camping anywhere, and then they get themselves stuck on the side of a mountain, or they're out blasting music on their Bluetooth speaker in the middle of desolation wilderness being a nuisance, and it's like
Yeah.
I want you to be out here, but don't be a dork. Like,
And also quit pricing me out of the industry. Like I love my gear. I inherited most of it, but goddamn, some of it can't fit on a motorcycle. I might need to upgrade, and I'm not spending 4
yeah,
digits to
and
do
most
it.
of the stuff that's small enough that you can pack it on a motorcycle is going to be the ultralight backpacking stuff that cost a bajillion dollars.
Yeah, because now it's boutique and carbon fiber and all that bullshit.
Yeah, it's more expensive than it should be because people with money are now. It's a whole thing, and I'm not trying to like disparage anybody if you're getting into going, in the outdoors, but there are people who want to go outside and respect kind of the wilderness vibe and respect for the wilderness and respect for your fellow outdoorsmen that are out enjoying the wilderness. And then there's people who are just pieces of shit and shouldn't. And the thing that kept them from going outside was the fact that other than like Beals, like near us, near me, there's Beals Point at Folsom Lake. For 90% of people, that's camping. Anything further than that is too much because they don't have gear. It's too far of a drive. But now with the internet, it's way too easy for people to go out to the middle of nowhere and find a place to camp that used to be, your secret spot that you got away from people at. Now there's 7 RVs parked there. So it's a whole thing. How did we get here? Oh yeah.
We'll get off our soapbox now. Very sorry about all that.
So yeah, so Father Mulcahy side-eyes Trapper, turns, looks at the couple kissing in the bag next to him, and he's like, "Oh boy, he can't handle so much debauchery, so much sin. He's just trying to watch a movie." We also noticed we get Kelly Nakahara as Nurse Kelly again. First off, we get Gary Berghoff, Radar, staring at the movie while holding a half-eaten chicken wing, which, love that, very Radar. But then you get Nurse Kelly, who is staring deeply at Radar while what looks to be biting her lip.
She must have seen him playing the drums.
I don't know why this was what they told the actors to do, unless it was to make Nurse Kelly have the hots for Radar and have Radar be completely oblivious to it. Because it's funny to me. I love this.
It is funny. It's objectively funny.
We then get Hawkeye and Lieutenant Regina Hopkins, a new nurse. Hang on, back up. We get Klinger and oh god, why can't I think of her name? It's Odessa Cleveland's nurse. Why can't I think of it? Oh, I feel so dumb. Odessa.
I'm not gonna have any help for you, man. You're my Sherpa on the
Ginger Bayless, Nurse Ginger.
There you go.
Ginger Bayless. So we get Klinger and Ginger are enjoying a romantic evening, and Klinger is looking fabulous as usual. And then Hawkeye is kind of doing the same thing Nurse Kelly is, staring intently at the object of his affections, Lieutenant Regina Hopkins, played by Corinne Camacho. She's a TV actress. She's in a lot of stuff back in the day. Another one of these, she's in, an episode of this, 2 episodes of this. She was in 64 episodes of Days of Our Lives. But other than that, 18 episodes of Medical Center. So she's all over the place, but usually only as a bit part in one or 2 episodes.
Well, I'll tell you one thing. She's goddamn gorgeous. I mean, my God.
Oh yeah. Oh, absolutely. So the movie ends. Everyone breaks away. Hawkeye is intent upon continuing their evening back at Regina's tent.
Can you blame him?
Not at all. But Regina is not all that hasty, and she says, "Let's go out again tomorrow night," and offers him a handshake. Now, Ethan.
Yes.
I am painfully single.
Uh-huh.
So I'm gonna lean on you for this.
Lean on me.
How, on a scale of 1 to 10, how weird is closing a date with a handshake?
Here's the thing. It's not a good closer. It's actually a horrible closer. Sometimes
Okay.
Yeah. Go on.
You're in Hawkeye's scenario.
Mm-hmm.
You take date back to house.
Sure.
You make coy, playful remark of, "Shall we go?" You throw the line out there to see what happens.
Yeah.
You get a no, but in exchange for the no, you get a hug or a peck on the cheek. Are those good enders? Is that like, no thank you, but hug, or no thank you, kiss on cheek? Like, would that be a satisfactory conclusion to the evening to you?
Absolutely. But to hop back on my little soapbox, normally on a first date, I don't try to get invited inside. I do.
Oh, you're such a respectful man.
Oh, shut up. I go for a kiss. I do on the first date, assuming all went well. But a handshake, my God. I had a handshake once.
And this is
after a date, and I was blocked afterwards.
Oh.
That was back in high school, though. So
well, almost to illustrate your point, and this is one of the few scenes we ever get in MASH where this happens, where you see the scene that just happened while the audio from the next scene starts playing. So you hear his trapper voice comes in, "A handshake sounds like a weirdo." It's almost as if this is a warning sign for future things that might happen in this episode.
Nah, man, when she's staring into my soul with those big blue eyes of hers, all those red flags just start to look awful green. You know what I'm saying?
I know what you're saying, but there's a much better way to say it.
That's gonna be on my gravestone. That applies to everything I say.
When you're wearing rose-tinted glasses, red flags just look like flags.
Yeah, beautiful. Yeah. Let's go with that.
I believe that's a line from the show BoJack Horseman, and it's a great, low key. That's a great line. When you're wearing rose-tinted glasses, red flags just look like flags.
Ooh, BoJack Horseman. After we finish MASH in a decade.
Oh God, I've actually heard that it's a really good show. A fairly depressing show at times, but a very good show. So yeah, Hawkeye gets a handshake. He is very confused. He and Trapper rightfully discuss it in the swamp afterwards, as homeboys shall do.
Yes.
Hawkeye says, it was strange. He's gonna keep dating. He's gonna keep pushing through anyway. Frank comes in. We love Frank. Hi, Frank. Frank's this is a perfect episode to illustrate a perfect amount of Frank Burns. He is tastefully used in this episode. He comes in the tent and asks, "Why it's disgusting in here? Why is it whenever I come in here it's disgusting?" And Hawkeye, without missing a beat, just looks at him and goes, "That seems to say it all, Frank." Frank is angry because they read a letter to his wife. I can't. Just this whole sequence I love.
Yeah.
Frank, we would never read your letters to your wife. And then Trapper out loud starts writing a letter to his wife using the exact words that Frank used. I love this. I love are we friends or enemies? The friends or are we enemies or lovers stage of the swamp mates dichotomy. I love season 2 Frank versus Hawkeye and Trapper, because it's like we hate him, but we kind of love him.
Did you ever write letters when we were at camp?
Right? No. And here, let me explain why. 1, mail service at camp was not always trustworthy. 2, who am I writing to, Ethan?
I every now and again when I'm bored and in a new town on a road trip, I'll pick out a postcard and send it to one of the old addresses I used to live at.
Okay. What did you say in the postcard, Ethan? We're hard left into, were you creepy? Were you threatening? Did you write, "Hey, hi Jim, I love the time we spent together in San Francisco. Winky face, heart, Steve." What?
Unfortunately, nothing that original. I usually did one of two things. The thing I did the most was write it in a very Civil War-esque style. My dearest Margaret, Commander tells me we are to charge the hill on the morrow. We have been stationed here a fortnight.
You did not.
I long to lay down my arms and come back to the homestead, and I shall watch over you and Mother forevermore. Yours truly, Bartholomew.
Jesus Christ.
So
What's funny is I don't know if you could be joking or dead serious, and I genuinely don't know right now.
It's yep. Mm-hmm.
Write your old addresses. See if you get the cops called on you. That's our recommendation to you. That reminds me of that video that I don't know if you've seen it, where the guy's like, it was during COVID. He's like, things have been too quiet around here. So I sent a bouquet of flowers to my neighbors. I said, sweetheart, the evening we spent together last month still lives on in my mind. I can't wait to see you again. Love, Barbara. And then you hear the wife start screaming. His wife's name's not Barbara. Sorry, Steve. Like, he's like, it's been too boring around here. I'm gonna fuck with my neighbors. Don't do that.
Don't do that. Don't do anything. Don't do anything.
Don't do that. I don't think they can hear me winking. Hang on. Let me get closer to the mic.
Oh God, why could I hear that? Oh God. Oh.
So after they make fun of Frank, you send postcards to your previous addresses. I'm still wrapping my head around that one.
I started doing that after I got the idea from an episode of MASH that I watched when I was a kid. Because occasionally, you know, the old toast they'll use sometimes.
Here's looking up your old address.
Exactly.
Oh, so you're like, I'm just gonna start writing strangers. Okay.
Yeah.
I might do that. I might write my old address in Lincoln. There's $5,000 buried in the backyard. They're coming. You don't know me. There's $5,000 buried in the backyard. They're coming for it.
To our audience and to you, Anthony, I want you to know it takes very, very little effort to live completely rent-free in a stranger's head for time immemorial. So about this episode...
Hang on, another tangent. You just reminded me, one of my favorite, I don't care if you love him or hate him, I still do, like Dane Cook as a comedian. One of my favorite jokes is like, hey, if you're ever bored while traveling, walk up to a stranger in the airport and go, "Don't get on the flight," and walk away. Thank you, Angel wearing jeans. Oh God. Whew. gotta stop recording these so late in the evening. We're a little out of it.
Yeah, just a
So-
little.
So they make fun of Frank. A corporal walks in. This is Corporal Walker, Phil Walker, played by a gentleman named Jerry Zaks. And Jerry, very interesting. Jerry was another one of these, bit actors mostly through the 70s. Lots of TV movies, lots of TV series. The Edge of Night was a big one he was in. But then in the late 80s, early 90s, or I guess mid 90s, he made the switch to director. And he directed a lot of TV shows. He directed episodes of Frasier, a lot of Everybody Loves Raymond, some episodes of 2.5 Men. So yeah, interesting
he
career.
found some decent success.
Oh yeah.
Good for him.
So, but in this, he is playing Phil Walker, and my phone is not silent. He asks for Hawkeye to come look at a patient outside. We get outside. Or no, first of all, they try to pawn him off on Frank, which, good call. Not for Frank not to take it and have him insist on Hawkeye, because Frank would have been not helpful at all.
Yeah.
Turns out outside is a young Korean woman named Kim and her baby, who happens to be Phil's son. So, Hawkeye checks on the baby, who seems to be crying nonstop. Fun fact, I guess not a fun fact, it is common for babies to get colic. Because, they're small and their digestive system isn't developed yet.
Yeah, there's nothing fun about that fact, but I'm
There
glad I
is
know
nothing fun about colic. But
just a touch of the colic.
But he's checking on the baby, and Phil asks another question. He was wondering if he could help or if Hawkeye could help him get the paperwork done and the army red tape cut so that Phil can bring his quote wife unquote back to the States with him. Now, the reason I say quote wife unquote is that Phil reveals to Hawkeye, we got married by the cook because he was an altar boy, so that Kim would be comfortable, dating Phil and all that and having a baby with him. But he wants to set things right, have an actual marriage so that it's all legal and binding in the eyes of the army and the government and all that jazz when he goes back to the U.S. and immigrates her. Because she would become, at that point, I believe, a naturalized citizen. I don't know. I don't know how immigration worked in the 50s. I'm pretty sure if you married an American citizen, you would then be qualified for American citizenship, but it was a whole thing.
So kind of what I'm curious about is, so Kim and this young soldier are presumably in the 407th, right?
I mean, yes, the soldier is a member of the 407th. Kim is probably from the village around there, so either Weijongbu or.
So he spends a great deal of time in the camp where Father Mulcahy is just lurking around,
Look,
ready.
Don't try to make this make sense. I believe Phil Walker. I'm gonna say this. I do not doubt that Phil is in love with Kim and Kim is in love with Phil. My guess is if Phil went to Father Mulcahy and said, "Hey, Father, this is my girlfriend Kim, and she won't let me have the sex until we're married. Marry us, please." I don't know if Father Mulcahy would be down with that. You know what I mean? Like, just marrying people so they can have coitus. But I could see a reason why Phil maybe wouldn't have gone to Father Mulcahy.
Just imagine walking up to your local Catholic priest and saying, "Look, Padre, this here is my girlfriend."
You said.
No, just hear me
These were
out.
the rules.
Hey, Padre.
You said. No.
Me and this young lady here are gonna have the intercourse. Now that can either be premarital or marital. The choice is up to you.
Jesus Christ. Oh boy. But to be serious though, he would still have the same problem with the army red tape regardless. He would have to get Father Mulcahy couldn't marry them until they had the permission of the army. And the reason, and you might be wondering, why does the Army have any say in that? It's like, well, the U.S. government, as we're going to learn in a much later episode, and I can't wait till we get to this episode because it's a very interesting one. If your army goes into a foreign country, there is an argument to be made that you need to take steps to handle the inevitable outcomes that will happen from that, up to and including if an American soldier gets a local indigenous personnel pregnant and they have a baby, that baby's an American citizen. Right?
Yeah.
By law.
Yeah.
Yeah. We're going to see in the future, the Army's really good about handling citizen, that's an American citizen, should be treated as such, right?
I don't like the tone in your voice. It scares me.
Anyway, Phil is trying to do the right thing, and Hawkeye agrees to try to help him. That is what we need to take away from that scene. Hawkeye ends by saying, hey, when it comes time to circumcise the baby, please come see me, not the cook. I hate that. I hate that joke. I hate it very much. Moving on. I don't like it.
Yep. I don't like it so much. I'm not even going to make a snide remark. Just,
yeah. We then jump to a surgery scene where Radar mentions he's got the forms that the colonel needs to sign. The colonel will deal with them once they're done with surgery. And Hawkeye and Henry are talking about, how hard it's going to be to get the Army to sign off on this, because the Army is wary to just sign these papers right, left, and sideways, because there is, on the flip side of the coin, there is a very good reason to marry an American GI and have him take him home with you, so that you can get out of insert war-torn country and get a a faster path to citizenship, because now you have a legal and binding way to argue that you deserve to be a citizen because you're married to a citizen.
Yeah.
So the Army is trying to weed out the people doing it the right way and the people exploiting the system.
And I get that there's a reason behind it. It's just, I don't know. I guess I'm just relieved that Korea isn't real.
Did you say Korea isn't real?
Probably.
Audience, I'm going to let you deal with that one. So, moving on right along. Once again, you can contact us on social media or at our email. I'll let you guys deal with that. So Henry is saying to Hawkeye, hey, this is going to be hard. The last person I knew of to try to do this took him 1.5 years, and he ended up marrying the chick who was doing all the paperwork, not the Korean spouse to be. But Hawkeye is hopeful that he's going to be able to make this happen, because one, he promised Walker, and two, they had a kid. Like, they clearly, Phil isn't faking it. Kim's not faking it. They care about each other. They love each other. They had a baby together. Why should they not have the option to get married if they want to? Which is a fair argument.
Absolutely.
We see that Hawkeye has a second date with Nurse Hopkins.
Ooh.
They are eating sandwiches and drinking wine in the back of an ambulance, which, okay. Interesting choice.
Hey, audience, be taking notes. First date ideas.
First date ideas. The back of an ambulance where absolutely people have died. But, hey,
Look, people have probably died in the gas station down the street. Doesn't mean I'm not going to get my coffee before I go to school. Like, what do you want?
Fair enough. So of all the Hawkeye dating scenes we've seen, this one seems like the most normal.
Do not sit there and tell me that anything about that scene is normal.
Normal for the show. Like, it's not the Edwina date. It's not It's normal-ish.
Normal adjacent?
Normal adjacent. I won't go over every little joke, but they're doing the back and forth. Hawkeye's trying to verbally negotiate his way into bed. She's coyly verbally negotiating her way out of that. But she does consent at the end of the date to see him tomorrow night, where, you know, as Hawkeye says later, stars will fall over Alabama and all that jazz. So.
That's a good euphemism. I'm going to have to steal that one.
Radar checks in with Henry and lets him know that the CID is going to be sending a investigator named Lieutenant Willis to come and check in on Phil and Kim and approve or disapprove the marriage. Real quick. So CID, I've been meaning to pull this up because we've heard it a couple times. Army CID is Criminal Investigation Division.
Oh.
So it's basically the Army's version of NCIS, Naval Criminal Investigative Services. At least that's what it says. I don't know if that's what the acronym also meant way back in the day, but I'm going to assume we're fairly right. It's CID, Criminal Investigative Division. So, moving on. He also, hang on, and this is the tangent we knew we were going to go on. Yeah. So, Radar informs Henry that CID is sending Lieutenant Willis up. Henry's like, fine. The John Wayne movie didn't make it, which is a shame. So, they need to run one of the other movies they have, and it's either The Thing That Ate the Bronx or Bonzo Runs for President. Now, Ethan, you asked me a very important question at this point.
Oh, no.
He asked, is the Bonzo movies just a gag, or are they a thing that really existed? Now, Ethan.
Yes.
There is, in fact, a movie called Bedtime for Bonzo. Can I read you to the description of this movie?
I would have it no other way.
If you will. A college professor attempts to salvage his personal and professional reputation by using a laboratory chimpanzee to prove that environment trumps heredity in behavioral development. Bonzo is, in fact, the chimpanzee in this movie.
Oh.
The professor, Professor Peter Boyd, is played by a little-known actor. You may have heard of him. He was in some Westerns. Nothing much more of note he did other than some movies. Actor's name is Ronald Regan.
Ronald Reagan, the actor?
No, Ronald Reagan, the president, Ethan. Yes, Ronald Reagan starred in Bedtime for Bonzo.
I didn't realize that he had...
Now, all the other ones you hear, Bonzo Runs for President, Bonzo Goes to College, I'm pretty sure those are fake, and they're making fun of the Bonzo movies. But, while I was on the IMDb page for Bedtime for Bonzo, you want to hear a fun bit of trivia?
Almost always.
The furry leading actor, this would be Bonzo, the chimpanzee, not Ronald Reagan. The chimpanzee playing Bonzo was once so intrigued by a tie that Ronald Reagan was wearing that he yanked on it so hard he almost suffocated his human co-star.
So there's a timeline.
Ethan, stop. Do you know the YouTube channel Alternate History Hub?
I love Alternate History Hub.
I'm gonna message him and say, can you please do an alternate history timeline if Ronald Reagan was killed by the chimpanzee in Bedtime for Bonzo and never became president? I'm pretty sure he's done a what if Reagan wasn't president timeline. But if he hasn't, this is the craziest way to try to work around him not being president. On a completely semi-related note, go check out Alternate History Up. He does very interesting, like, what if scenarios of history of what if this happened differently or what if this person wasn't in power. Very,
Yeah.
very good, very interesting stuff.
Also very
But
informative.
to think that Reagan could have not been president because he got choked out by a chimp in 1951. Oh God, I hate it.
Yeah.
So yeah, bedtime for Bonzo. Audience, I'm not saying we will, but if you would like us to watch Bedtime for Bonzo as a bonus episode, let us know. It's like it's like fifth on the list at this point, but let us know. So yes, they're gonna run both movies because why wouldn't you? Oh wait, no, they're not gonna run both movies. Henry decides to watch The Thing That Ate the Bronx because he could see that every night. Henry then goes back to sleep on his desk, but not before Major Burns and Major Houlihan request an audience with him, to which he says, "Permission denied, tell him I'm busy." And there's that lovely awkward moment where Radar clears his throat, and Henry, without even getting up, goes, "They're here, aren't they?"
Yes. Yes,
and he sits up to address Frank, and Frank, somehow, through Margaret, it's quite impressive ventriloquism, expounds upon the list of things he thinks are wrong today, and that mostly revolves around the Walker matter, as he calls it. Phil Walker wanting to marry the Korean woman.
Walker?
Yes, exactly. Margaret is rattling off all the reasons that they're angry that Radar and Hawkeye are involving themselves in this. Henry mentions a CID man is coming to deal with it, and then it's going to be over and done with, so why are you complaining? Margaret does make a fair point. It's like the only person that could get that done that quickly is Captain Pierce. So, you know, nepotism rocks. Henry stands up and confronts Frank, quote unquote, for some of the things he's saying, and threatens that if Frank keeps saying those things, he's going to have to punch Margaret straight in the mouth, and I kind of love that. And Frank mentions he has extremely high blood pressure, and if he let himself go, he could go splat. And then he goes on this lovely little soliloquy of how blessed and sacred marriage is, that it is a union that his is a union that shall endure forever with his wife, which for some unknown reason, completely unknown to me, I don't know if you picked up on this, Ethan, upsets Margaret for some reason.
You know,
Sure.
I'm glad that we brought this up, because I've got kind of a theory, more of a headcanon. I think that Margaret might have the hots for Frank.
No.
Well, hear me out. There's in a couple of episodes when she's discussing how tantalizing his earlobes are, that she looks at him.
I think he likes her earlobes. I don't know if we've picked up on that.
Oh, okay. Well, we'll have to dive deeper into this before.
They
before
don't
the
telegraph. They don't do a good job of showing us that these two like each other. I'm not picking up on it at all.
Don't worry.
Honestly, I feel like this is sudden, and there wasn't enough build up to this.
Yeah. But for you, our trusted audience, we will figure this out by next episode.
The best part of this scene is as Margaret is agreeing with Frank. Go back and watch the scene and just watch Margaret the whole time. Don't look at Frank at all. He starts out like the institution of marriage is wholesome and pure and must be upheld. I know that in my own case, and Margaret's face starts to change. My marriage is a great union that will endure forever. And by the end, she just, oh, Frank.
Well, Frank, win a few, lose a few.
Exactly. I loved it. Loretta Swit is so funny with her facial expressions. I love it so much. We come back from the break. Hawkeye is getting a haircut from Trapper in preparation for his date with Nurse Hopkins. This is something I read. Someone shared this on Tumblr, not with us directly, but about MASH in general. They were talking about a different episode where one of the swamp mates is getting their hair cut by the other, and they were mentioning how they love how lived in the world feels. Like the episode they were talking about, similar to this episode, where one person's cutting Hawkeye's hair while he's having an argument with their other tent mate. There's books on the shelves. There's half a martini sitting on the table behind him. There's a different set of birthday cards on Frank's thing. Like the I know we said this before, but to the set dressing and props department, fucking A+ job. The whole series. It's
Yeah,
so wonderful.
I
It's not sterile like a lot of modern TV shows feel. Like
yeah,
even TV shows that like I don't know how to explain it. Like there's something about some TV shows like they feel fake. And there's something about MASH where it's like, yeah, the world feels super lived in. Little dirty. But so Hawkeye gets his haircut. Trapper also has a date that evening, so he finishes up helping Hawkeye and says he's got a date and is gonna leave. Hawkeye mentions, "May I remind you that I'm a married man?" And Trapper responds with, "That's just an ugly rumor started by my wife." And I love that.
well,
Yeah, it's not wrong. Hawkeye's getting ready to leave. He does his signature bottle of quote wine unquote. And as he's getting ready to leave, we get Lieutenant Willis, played by, and it took you a minute to figure out who this was,
it
Burt
did.
Young. Burt Young, who is well known for playing kind of lovable con men, sleazy gangsters, in a bunch of films. He has a bunch of films with James Caan, most of which I didn't know existed, and I would love to go watch them just because I fucking love James Caan in anything. I loved him in, obviously, The Godfather as Sonny Corleone. I really liked him, and this is one of those things where it blew my mind that this was the same person once I realized it. Do you know who else James Caan plays, Ethan, in a more recent movie than The Godfather?
A more recent movie? No, I have no idea.
It's a Christmas movie. I'll give you
No,
a hint.
no, it's not.
Yes. James Caan, who played Sonny in The Godfather.
Wait. Is it an animated Christmas movie?
No, it is not. Well, no, it is not an animated Christmas movie.
Okay, then I have no idea.
He starred alongside Will Ferrell in
No,
Elf.
he did not. No, he.
James Caan is his dad, Walter Hobbs.
God damn.
I didn't realize that the first time I watched that movie, but God, it's so perfect. It's so perfect.
That's gonna make
Which
that movie
leads us
better.
to one of my favorite completely not true headcanons. Sonny did not die on the causeway and was put into witness protection program, the witness protection program. Under the name Walter Hobbs, he became a children's book author and remarried and had Buddy. That does not work at all for the ages of the characters, but I still love it. But no, so Burt Young is Lieutenant Willis. Obviously, I circled around it. Most well known, I would think, by most of our audience for playing oh crap, what's his character's name in Rocky?
Paulie.
Paul, is it Paulie? Yeah, it's Paulie.
Yeah, 90%.
You're right.
Sure.
You're right.
Wow, I'm not used to
You're
hearing
right.
that.
I know.
Feels kind of weird.
So yeah, Burt Young as Lieutenant Willis, famous for Paulie, Convoy, Chinatown, and many other movies. Great character actor. He's one of those where I know I've seen him in a bunch of stuff, but I couldn't name him for the longest time until I saw Rocky. I'm like, oh yeah, that's Paulie.
For the longest time.
Oh God. So Lieutenant Willis comes in, and he's very blunt. He's like, "We're doing this now, or we're not doing it at all. I busted my ass to get down here. Let's talk about it." And you can tell he's very much a Burt Young character. He's a little sleazy, a little gruff, a little disinterested. And he's like, "Look, tell me about Walker and the Broad." Hawkeye's like, "Can we maybe speak a little nicer, refer to her as Kim or the young lady?" He's like, "Look, Doc, 90% of the time, they're marrying just to get citizenship in the States. Let's just get this done and over with." Which annoys Hawkeye. And the way they filmed this is weird because I feel like we watch what is the equivalent of like 4.5 hours go by in about 5 minutes. It's very weird. Like, it clearly is supposed to be longer than it is perceived to be. But it kind of throws me off. But basically, you get the sense that Lieutenant Willis is, at best, doesn't care. At worst, little bit racist. I for him, I'm tending to lean mostly toward indifference. He's like, look, most of the time it's a sham, even if it is, whatever. But he gets drunk, passes out, which, fair enough. They're drinking basically pure grain alcohol. Klinger comes in. Klinger comes in with the picnic basket of chicken and mashed potatoes and stuff for Hawkeye's date. He tells him, go over, give it to Lieutenant Hopkins. Tell her I'm going to be late. Unavoidable, yada, yada, yada. Willis passes out. Trapper comes in wondering. So Willis passes out. Hang on, I want to back up because the chain of events is so confusing.
Okay.
Let me back up. So after Klinger leaves, they start talking about Walker. And that's where we get where the lieutenant is less than interested in making this happen. He thinks that Kim is pulling a fast one, trying to get, the fast path to citizenship. He tells Hawkeye there's a lot of wrong thinking in this man's army, which kind of sets off the red flags of, is he being racist? Is he being, I don't know,
McCarthyist?
Maybe, because that was right after he asked what political affiliation Hawkeye is, which is just this is where I think there's supposed to be like showing that time has jumped because Klinger just left with the chicken. Now he's sitting there talking about whether or not he should wear shoulder pads with some of his outfits with Lieutenant Hopkins. She mentions it's been almost an hour. We then cut back to Willis and Hawkeye talking, so we assume they've been talking for at least an hour. He passes out getting from all the booze after hang on, I'm keep jumping to the passing out part. He says there's no reason that he should fast track Walker's marriage. It sounds like he didn't see any reason to say no, but he didn't see any reason to speed it up, right?
Sure.
But then Hawkeye mentions there's a baby involved, which complicates matters. Then Walker passes out. There we go. Trapper comes back in after his date. And they come up with a plan to frame Lieutenant Willis by staging it to look like he had many women with him. He got drunk, passed out while he was on the job. All sorts of stuff that they're going to make it look like he did. So Trapper gets started doing that. Hawkeye goes to reassure Lieutenant Hopkins that he will be not much longer. Very soon they will be together. By the time Hawkeye gets back, Trapper, in quick order, mind you, has stripped the lieutenant down to his boxers. They have sent his uniform to get cleaned and pressed by radar. Now, here's another time dilation question. They say he was passed out for 2 hours. Do you think that 2 hours has gone by, or do you think they're just telling him that?
I can't imagine.
Because if they're just telling him that, does he's got to have a watch? Like, that's not hard to disprove.
I can't imagine that Nurse Hopkins would have waited a full 2 hours after already waiting all that. So I don't know. It's certainly possible. I don't know. I don't claim to know. I'm not
the timeline always bothers me when I watch this episode, but anyway. So Lieutenant Willis wakes up. Hawkeye and Trapper tell him, "Oh yeah, you went through this much booze.
Boy.
You are a naughty boy. You drank a lot. You had women. There's lipstick all over his shirt. Radar delivers his uniform clean and pressed. Unfortunately, we couldn't get mascara out of your good conduct ribbon. I fucking love that little line. Radar then says, your pictures will be ready in 20 minutes. Wink, 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 wink. Weird radar look, wink, wink. Rightfully so, as any Burt Young character should, he does not fall for this at all. He's like, I'm calling your bluff. This is bullshit. I framed more guys than you've operated on. You're just doing this so I'll sign the Walker paperwork. But Hawkeye and Trapper push and say, even if it's not real, it's going to go on your record. And also in very Burt Young character fashion, what do I care? Or here you go. And he signs the paper. I love how he both cares very much, but also doesn't care at all.
Yeah, just a true Burt Young character. What more can you say?
And again, a theme with MASH as a whole, but especially the first 3 seasons. Excellent use of a actor for a very specific character one time, and then they're gone. Beautiful, beautiful use. But he does say something as he leaves that is kind of a stinger and is sadly very true. Let's see him get an apartment in the States with a Korean wife. That was very much a jab, not only during the Korean War, but at the time, the Vietnam War. There were war brides coming back. A lot of the same stuff happened, where it's like, okay, nice young American man and random Vietnamese lady. I suddenly can't rent you this apartment for reasons.
Yeah. You know, something I just learned about the other day is in the grand scheme of things, you know, Vietnam and all that wasn't that long ago. And to that point, a lot of the photos of, you know, Martin Luther King Jr. and segregation protests are portrayed in black and white, even though they were absolutely taken in color because it is not as long ago as you would like to perceive. But I would wager, because I know in my own experience at school, they were all shown in, you know, black and white to kind of age it up a little bit. So just, goddamn.
Yep, we are. Remember, people, we are still technically not even one human lifetime removed from the Second World War. Like, we are still inside human time frame of a human lifetime time frame of all these events. It's not that long ago.
That I don't know. That just, every time I really sit and think about that, it unnerves me.
Walker's marriage gets signed off and approved on a very wrinkly piece of official paperwork. I'm sure that'll go well. So Hawkeye can finally, after days, go and be with Lieutenant Hopkins and spend an evening with her. And then with all the grace and subtlety of an 8-pound sledgehammer. Ethan, I appreciate what they do are they trying to say and do with this final scene. I really do. What did you think of it? Was it necessary? Did it work for you?
I suppose if you're going to make a commentary with the CID man leaving on that sour note, then you kind of gotta at least put someone on the moral high ground. I did not care for it. I understand why they did it, but goddamn, it came out of left field, right? That's not just me. Like,
so here's the thing. It did kind of come out of left field, and obviously what we're talking about is Hawkeye is talking about what kept him so long. He mentions, he was helping Corporal Walker get a marriage approved through the Army. And Lieutenant Hopkins mentions, Kim, that's a Korean name, right? You know, yes, because Kim's Korean. Oh, so you stood me up so that one of our people could marry a Korean person. And Hawkeye explains further, like, they love each other, they had a baby, why shouldn't they get married? So you arranged a marriage between one of our people and a gook, and Hawkeye is immediately taken aback, which he should be. I'm not discrediting that.
No, absolutely. And to be
And
fair,
then
multiple times he's said in this series already how much he does not like that word and that attitude
so
in general.
there's like levels to it, right? If she had been disapproving of Walker marrying a Korean, if she had just said that, that's like showing that she's on the same level or maybe a little bit worse than Lieutenant Willis, the CID guy, right?
Yeah.
And that would be a reason for Hawkeye to be like, "You gross, no, stop it." And then they hit you over the head with her straight up calling her a gook. It's like, okay, ow, but okay, so she's like racist,
And Nurse
or no, she
Hopkins
like
out of the corner with the chair.
exactly like her just flatly saying, "Oh, so you arranged a marriage between one of our guys and a gook." It's like, okay, she's not just dumb, she's racist. Okay, cool. But then there's the third sledgehammer whack of uh our people, since I'm one of them, who are we? And she's like, white, silly. That's like the third hammer below, like, we get it, she's a piece of shit. Like, it's one of those. I'm glad MASH has an episode addressing this, and they do much better in future episodes of addressing racism and war brides and immigration to the US for children who are citizens of the United States because they are children of US Army soldiers, like by law. They have much better episodes with this. I like that they addressed it. I like that they gave Hawkeye a moment to one, it's a good scene for Hawkeye because it shows us that Hawkeye has morals. He is not willing to, I think we knew this already, but he is not willing to set aside those morals because of the attraction. Like, he's not willing to go, she's racist, but she's also hot. Like, no, he's like, nope, that is a hard line for him. I'm glad that we know this about Hawkeye. I think we already knew that about Hawkeye, but I'm glad that there's an episode that doubles down and says, nope, Hawkeye is not willing to put up with your bullshit. I do think they dropped it very heavy-handedly and not so gracefully, but I'm glad they did, at least. But yeah, it's, again, the subtlety of an impacted wisdom tooth. Just, yeah.
Yep.
But to be fair, and this was pointed out by one of our audience members, one of our Patreon members, Mike Jameson left a little comment on the post about this episode.
Mike, what's up, bud?
It's Mike. He said he likes this episode but doesn't love it.
Mm-hmm.
He did want to mention the offhanded way that Lieutenant, is it Hoffman or Hopkins? Okay, pause, stop, all stop.
God. No.
All stop. Episode guide. Okay, I thought in the episode they say Hoffman. According to IMDb, it is Lieutenant Regina Hopkins, Hopkins.
I think that's what we've been saying.
That's what I've been saying, but there were a couple times in the episode where I thought Hawkeye said Hoffman, but now I need to look. Okay, there's a discrepancy. The MASH wiki says Lieutenant Hoffman. So now I'm wondering, I swear to God. Okay, hang on, we're going to see what the subtitles say.
Yep, okay.
Hold on. Because I'm going to skip forward to where he leaves the tent and says, it's Lieutenant Hoffman. IMDb is wrong, and that's where I got the actress's name from, so I wrote her character down as Hopkins. I'm addressing this now. Replace everything. Ignore everything I said. I'm an idiot. No, it's Lieutenant Hoffman. I've been saying Hopkins because that's what I wrote down from IMDb.
Yeah, and that's on IMDb, so
that's on. Well, it's on me for not double checking, but yes, it is Lieutenant Hoffman, not Hopkins. But I could see how one way or the other someone could have mixed it up by not hearing it correctly.
Okay, I hear what you're saying.
Back to what Mike said.
Yeah.
The offhanded way that Lieutenant Hoffman refers to the bride as a gook still floors me. He says he's too often been around friends and family members who will casually drop a racial or sexual slur, not even intending it to be an insult, which makes it even worse. It was Hawkeye's reaction that imprinted on me as a child and cemented him as one of my heroes. I wish I could say I've had the courage to call out each and every person when this happens, but that would be a lie. I feel it's something I'll have to rectify, but sadly, I know it probably won't be the last time it occurs. So here's the thing. I know that we love to say our society's a dystopian hellscape. Very rarely have I ever heard someone be as blatantly racist as Lieutenant Hoffman just was.
Really?
She is I didn't say ever.
Okay, that's fair. Yep. Okay, go on.
I have, how do I say this? I think you and I can both say we have been in positions where friends or family have said some outlandish shit.
Oh yeah.
And I think what Mike's saying is, yeah, he's had people that say outlandish shit, but and I know this is like the unpopular opinion to have. 90% of people that I know personally that will say outlandish shit like that, I know in my heart of hearts they don't mean it, and that does not make it okay. You know, but there's like, if I'm going to get righteously angry, I want it to be to the right person. Like, for example, my grandmother, she let fly something when I was younger.
We've discussed this before.
You discussed this.
Yeah.
So, audience, my grandmother, sweet woman, was teaching me to bake, and we needed walnuts for something. And she let slip literally one of the most racist things I've ever heard any human being say. I don't know how to continue this story, Ethan. She said a anachronistic nickname for walnuts, shelled in the shell walnuts. And I don't know how to explain the name. Hang on.
Okay. Here's how I'll take a crack at it.
She called no, please don't.
Okay.
She called them a name that is very old that she probably heard from her parents growing up. She referred to the walnuts as the toes of an African American person. I will let the audience at home take a moment and think about that and realize what she said to like 10-year-old me. As soon as she said it, she covered her mouth. She's like, I can't believe I just said that. Do not. She was floored. She felt terrible. And I understood as a 10-year-old in that moment, my grandmother is not a racist. She said a thing that is very racist, but it was never from a place of malice. It was absolutely a Freudian slip, and she felt awful about it. It is weirdly one of the goofiest memories I have of my grandmother. But there are times where shit happens and I go, wow, I can't believe that person said that. But I also know them and know that's not in their heart. And there are other times where I know people and go, I think I need to stop hanging out with this person. Fortunately, that was not one of those times with my grandmother. That was a wild moment that I will remember forever. And I'll even be a little more frank. I think, Ethan, if we were really honest with each other and our audience, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but I know for me, there have been times where I have said some shit to people because I was angry and upset, and I knew it would make them angry and upset. And I will leave it at that.
Yeah.
I'm not proud of those moments. I'm very not proud of those moments.
Well, I know what you mean. Unfortunately, I can relate, and I think the only thing we can do is recognize them, be very not proud, and hopefully apologetic about them, and try to make it right in time.
Oh yeah. But yeah, and the sad thing is, Mike has a point. This is I said it's rarely I have seen someone do that. That's because I'm trying to surround myself with not people who are pieces of shit. I don't doubt that there are people like that walking this planet today who will just say some shit like that. Hell, there's 24-hour news and everyone has a camera in their pocket. I am well aware that there are people like this in the real world. But it's where I come back to. I'm glad MASH addressed it, but for the context of this specific episode, it seems like it sort of came out of left field. So it works, but it's also like I got hit in the face with a frying pan right at the end of the episode. But I don't know. I don't know. Audience, how did you? Please, I know it's a hard episode to try to talk about this subject because I don't think they handled the subject as tactfully as I would have liked them to, if that makes sense. There's better episodes to have a discussion about this, and I don't think it's this one. But yeah. But thank you for your comments, Mike.
Absolutely.
I appreciate. I will also go back and say, circling back to the I know in my heart of hearts I have said things that are absolutely not okay in order to upset and offend someone else. That was also when I was like 13, and every 13-year-old is a piece of shit. So no offense to the 13-year-olds listening to the podcast. 13-year-olds, 8th graders are evil. 8th graders are terrible human beings. They don't know how to be functioning people yet. And nor did I when I was 13. I will leave it at that. But anyway, moving away from that very awkward topic, Hawkeye is very upset, admits that Regina is very beautiful and that he would love to get to know her, but inside are some very unappetizing ideas, and he doesn't think he can take the mix. He leaves, angrily comes back in to get his wine. She is very confused and asks, is that all? And he says, no, one more thing, and blows raspberries at her and leaves, which is the most Hawkeye response to blatant, overt racism that I can imagine. So, yeah.
Oh, imagine doing that to a clan member.
I think that's how everyone should address racism from now on. Just blatant racism is happening in front of you, and you turn and go right back at them. So,
what are they going to do?
But anyway. So the episode ends. We see Phil and Kim getting married in the mess tent. It's very lovely. And they throw the bouquet, and Klinger catches it. And for everyone out there who has seen MASH before, this is absolutely not foreshadowing.
I swear to God, if any of you spoil this 55-year-old show for me, I am going to lose my shit.
So that was L.I.P. It was certainly an episode. Ethan?
Yes.
How do you feel about the episode? What do you think about it?
It was... I'm trying to figure out how... I liked it. I did. I thought it was a very good, quippy episode. That ending just kind of... not only the way they handled that, the overt racism, but also as you were kind of discussing the logic in the timeline kind of takes me out of it at some points. Yeah, I don't know how to better convey my thoughts than that. So,
it very similarly. Again, this is making me feel a lot of the same way about the Moose from season 1, where it's like racism is bad, and I don't want to say any argument against how they did this episode that makes it sound like I'm saying racism isn't bad. Racism is bad. Racism is not good. Racism sucks. Unfortunately, it exists, and to some degree it's a part of human nature, and it really sucks that it is, but people are gonna be that way no matter, there's always gonna be someone who's gonna be that way. But the way that they handled it, I wish it was more nuanced. Does that make sense? Like, I wish it was a little more woven into the episode, as opposed to at the very end of the episode, they literally smack you over the head and go, bonk, racism bad. Which, yes, it is, but, like, show us and have that be more woven into the storyline, not just, Hawkeye want date nurse, Hawkeye want date nurse, nurse racist, racism bad, Hawkeye angry. Like, I hope this is coming across to the audience where I don't like that she was racist. I wish that there was more... it was more part of the story as opposed to just being pocket sanded on us, just, look, she sucks. And Hawkeye's our pure moral compass and hates her. I don't know. I don't know if I'm articulating that well. But the episode overall, again, I agree with you, Ethan. It's not bad, but it is very all over the place sometimes. Like, the timeline doesn't make sense. It's, considering the number of really good episodes we've had in a row for season 2, this one isn't bad. It's just like, ugh. It's like they lost their footing for a second. I don't know. I don't know how to explain it. I'm very conflicted. Which is why I'm going to ask you first. What did you rate this episode, Ethan?
I rate this episode 3.5 out of 5.
3.5 out of 5.
Very funny. Interesting concept. The last third, I'd say the last 6 minutes, kind of lose at some points as the footing gets a little uneven. Although, if there's anyone in the audience who looks like Corinne Camacho, call me immediately.
Oh, God. Yeah. All right, then.
For legal reasons, that's a joke.
Similar for me, except the last 6 minutes confuses me a little bit more. Again, good episode. I wish it was a little better and a little more... I don't want to say I wish the racism was more subtle. How do I want to word this? I wish there was a little more, and again, there are episodes in the future, and people who have seen MASH know what I'm talking about. There are episodes that deal with this, both the subject of racism in general, and also very specific to the Korean War and Vietnam War type racism. There's episodes that handle it with much more detail and nuance. And nuance is the wrong word, because that implies like, oh, there's two sides to every story. No, racism is bad, period, end of story. But I don't know. This episode is a good, much like we've said that previous episodes are a good starting point for a topic. They expand and do it better in later seasons, and I think that is the case with the kind of setup that they've given us with marrying Korean locals, racism, immigrating the people you've formed a relationship with in the military back to your home country. I think this is a good starting point for that, but I don't think it's the best episode about those things that we get. So for me, it actually kind of did the opposite. I was kind of in between a 3.5 and a 3, but the more I thought about it, the more I'm like, man, this episode frustrates me and I wish it was a little better in some areas. So I gave it a 2.9, just shy of a 3. Just like, this one, I don't know. This one just, it doesn't, it's not bad. It just, we've seen them do better, and I know they're going to do better. So I'm going to ding them on this one a little bit, knowing that there's some 5-star episodes about these topics in the future. So,
and I can't wait to watch them.
But, so yeah. Before we get to our audience poll, I will shout out, as we have previously, the Patreon. If you want to support us on Patreon, you are more than welcome to do so. It is not a requirement. We will still be releasing the same content as usual. The Patreon is just a good way to help us help ease the burden of getting this podcast put up. And I have some good news, Ethan.
Yo.
I am happy to announce that the Patreon has met its goal of making this podcast net zero.
Holy shit, that is awesome.
We are now up to 3 patrons. And because of that, the cost of uploading a regular hour-ish plus episode every 2 weeks is covered now. So thank you to our patrons, and I'm sure you're wondering, Ethan.
I am.
Who is the new patron?
Who is the third man?
So in addition to Lieutenant Mike Jameson and Private Jared Gallagher, we have Sergeant Timothy Burleson. So Timothy, thank you very much. And thank you to all 3 of you for supporting the show. We appreciate it very much. Absolutely. And you have now made this adventure a zero cost thing, which means we can afford to maybe do some longer episodes, some bonus episodes in the future. Hint, hint, there might be one coming in the next few months. But and in exchange for that, you 3 and anyone else that joins the Patreon will probably be the first people to know about that bonus episode when it happens. So thank you very much. But on that note,
and of course, we'll, you know, uh, I've got some ideas to show my appreciation and all
oh
of
God,
that. Um,
you should now be concerned. You should now rethink your purchasing choices. But no, join the Patreon if you want to. Links are below. There's various options for how much you want to support us, how often you want to support us, all that jazz. So please think about it and consider it.
yeah,
but as for our audience, they have some thoughts about this episode. Donut Eater says 3.2. He likes the themes of the episode, like dealing with racism in the army. The stuff with Willis generally isn't his favorite, but he does like how he states that the couple's issues won't go away with just getting married. They'll have to face issues back in the United States. Chief Smash Forever says 3 out of 5. Watched again preparing for this question. There's some funny parts as they try to frame the racist officer, but following Kim, not Kim the young lady, Kim the previous episode about the Korean child, that I'm just now realizing they're both named Kim. They're in a bit of a season 2 lull in his opinion. What's coming up soon though, can't wait. We just read comments from Mike from Patreon, but I'll add that he gave the episode a 3.5 out of 5. He says it's truly a schizophrenic episode that seems like it's trying to say something important about racism and hypocrisy, but it's undercut by the silly, albeit amusing subplot involving the CID officer. Damn, schizophrenic is a perfect way to describe this episode. And Chad Smith says 3.5, enjoyable early Burt Young role. And another great Margaret speaking for Frank scene. Otherwise, the episode was unremarkable. So yeah. Kind of all over the place. All over the place.
Yeah, real scatterboard.
I feel like that again, we've had episodes where everyone's like amazing episode, amazing episode, amazing episode. We've almost never had an episode where everyone says this episode blows, except for Edwina. And a little bit Fred C. Dobbs. But I'd say
there will never be a bad episode again.
Audience, I'm going to let you handle that one too. So, but no, it seems like most of the time Mash is either hitting it out of the park or making people feel very confused and conflicted. But so yeah, that's the audience thoughts on L.I.P. If you want to, if you're listening back to this and you're like, oh, dang, I'm trying to catch up with the podcast, you can still send us your reviews. They may not get read out on the podcast, but we will add them to the master list. So we have a running tally of what each episode gets ranked. So we can go over it at the end of the season and eventually at the end of the series. If you want to know where to find us, the links should be below the podcast or in the podcast information area, wherever that stuff gets displayed on whatever you're listening to us on. But the short list is Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, Tumblr, by email. The email's down there. Send us a carrier pigeon, whatever. And yeah, that's all I got. The next episode is The Trial of Henry Blake, which is an episode. It's a good episode, but we'll see. We'll see what everyone has to say about it. That's all I got. Ethan, do you have any parting words for us? Words of wisdom? Or confusion? Whatever. And on that note, what's funny is you're giggling and the audience won't know why, because I would have cut that.
Oh, thank Christ.
And on that note, and on that very confusing note, what do you think Ethan said? Send us your thoughts.
I'll tell you if you're right.
Write your old addresses. Tell us what happens. And we'll talk to you in the next episode. Bye, everyone.
The time has come for us to say sayonara. My heart will always be yours for eternity.